Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Belief Cast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires Belief Cast. As always, thank you for tuning in. And again, thanks to my sponsors. I'm so grateful to have you believing in me and helping me get this message out. Today on the Belief Cast, I'm honored to sit down with someone whose journey of healing and purpose is nothing short of inspiring. Ashley Milne is a licensed therapist, an expert in trauma and addiction treatment, a fierce advocate for EMDR and internal family systems therapy. But before she became a guide for others, she walked the hard road of recovery herself, from alcohol addiction and an eating disorder to reclaiming her life and redefining her purpose. Her personal transformation is what fuels her passion and authenticity as a therapist today. Ashley's story is one of courage, compassion, and deep belief in the power of healing. So we are so lucky, guys, to hear Ashley's story today. So Ashley, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, she came up from Las Vegas, and I appreciate you making the journey. And we had your sister on the podcast, Cassidy, which was, she did an amazing job.
Yes,
and
she's amazing.
She immediately referred me to you and said, "Oh my gosh, you got to have my sister on. She's got an amazing story." So thankful that you were willing to take some time and be on our show today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So happy to be here.
Okay, so why don't we start with just let our listeners know, where did you grow up and maybe a little bit about your childhood?
Yeah, so I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Grew up LDS. I am the third child of four. Okay. So things were pretty chaotic. My mom worked as an office manager for 30 years, and my dad was a shoe salesman. So he traveled a lot for work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like we had a great childhood. Parents very loving, had all the love. I think that there's some amount of emotional neglect that does happen when you have that many kids.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very normal, unfortunately. So, but I was the black sheep of the family. So,
okay.
Yeah, I was overweight as a child, struggled with that, and also just being different. My siblings, as you know, Cassie's very athletic. I was athletic. I did play softball and I danced, but I would say it was not my strong suit. I was more of an artistic child. I loved to paint and draw. Where my siblings were into country music, I was into rap and R&B. So very much different, kind of grew up feeling different. In school, I was bullied a lot. So that was a big catalyst for the eating disorder that started when I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So
was the bullying going on for a while, and then 16 is when the eating disorder came about? Or
about, 4th, 5th grade, I went to the same elementary school, and then around 4th grade, we moved to Ohio for 8 months and moved back to a different elementary school in St. Louis. So I think that moving period at that time was very difficult. So I turned to food for comfort. I ended up, that's what kind of drove the being overweight. But by the time I got to 6th grade was when I started experiencing bullying. And it wasn't like a ton, but it was enough. Several incidents that did enough damage for me. And then also my brother, I love him so much. And we've talked about this, and he's apologized for how he treated me, but he was a boy. He was mean. He would bully me at home. So it was not only that I was experiencing it away from home, I was experiencing it in the home. Just being told that I was different, that, he would joke with me and say, "You're from a different family. You don't belong to our family. You must have been adopted," stuff like that.
Yeah. Whereas, he's probably joking at the same time, but from your perspective, like, it stung and it hurt, and because you really already believe that, like, man, I am a little different than everyone right now. And then you go to school. Was it to the point where, like, you dreaded going to school? Like, oh my gosh, I got to go to school now because I know I'm going to be teased and bullied?
I just felt like the ugly duckling. I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I didn't like the way that I looked. Yeah, very much just really insecure, not confident. It wasn't to the point, I had friends, so it wasn't to the point where I was like dreading it, but definitely low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did your family know? Did you talk about this? Did you come home and tell mom and dad, hey, I'm being bullied at school? Or did you just kind of take that and keep it internal?
I kept it internal,
Yeah.
you know, and I see that a lot as a therapist with my clients that have been bullied.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's something that you have so much shame around that you don't want to burden your family or burden your parents, because my parents were busy. I mean, my mom, she worked full time, raised 4 kids when my dad was constantly out of town. So yeah, it was just one of those where I feel like there was just so much going on that I ended up never telling her about it, because also I didn't want the kid that was bullying me to, you know, then be like, oh, you're a tattle. So I just kind of held it in.
Which could have made it worse even, right?
Yeah.
Because we hear stories of that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you get the parents involved and all of a sudden now it's 10 times worse. And so, I had a little bullying myself when I was about that age as well. And I never thought, well, I'm going to go tell my parents. I just kept it to myself and just tried to act like everything was okay when it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go back to 16. You're at 16, and this is when things started to get tough.
So I was on the dance team. I made the dance team, and of course, you know, we wear these like spandex outfits. So body image is a really important thing. And you know, I would compare to the other girls that I danced with, and they had these perfect bodies, and so that was really hard for me. And then crazy story, but I actually got taught my eating disorder by one of the girls that was on the dance team with me. We were away for a state competition, and we went to a restaurant to eat, and she taught me how to purge after, and she was skinny and perfect body. And, you know, that's where I learned, oh, well, in order to look like her, I have to do this. And so that's what kind of started me with my bulimia. And I was bulimic the rest of high school into college. And then kind of struggled with it on and off until I was 26. Wow. So
at the time back in high school, did anyone know, like, did mom or dad know you were struggling with that? Or again, because that's something you don't just go share with someone, right?
Yeah. So this is hard because, you know, there were times where I would purge, and sorry if this is too much for people, but
this is good.
I would forget to flush it down. And so Cassidy or one of my other siblings would find it, and they'd go tattle my mom. But I don't think my mom, I would lie. I would say like I was just sick, or I wasn't starving myself. So it's not like something that my mom would notice, right? Okay. Nothing really changed about my body or my eating pattern. So I don't think that she really, and again, she was so busy that I just think it was hard. And also she grew up in a generation where counseling was not really a thing. And so I don't think she knew how to help me. So it was never really talked about, you know?
Yeah, you know, that my parents' generation too, we never talked about those kind of things. It was just kind of, let's forget about that. Just keep moving forward. And, you know, how was your emotional state? I mean, I think we can kind of assume what it is, but I'd love to hear from you. Like, what was it? How were you through high school and just emotionally?
Oh, man. Depressed. And I was an emotional kid. I am a very emotional person. You know, I have a lot of empathy. I feel a lot.
Okay.
So obviously those bullying incidents really impacted me. And I think connection is everything, and to feel belonging. And when you feel like an outcast most of your growing up, that's really hard. So, I was really worried about what people thought and trying to fit in. And that's around when I started alcohol use. You know, kids my age, we'd go to parties and drank, and it started as like on the weekends, you know, I'd hide it from my parents. I'd sneak beers in, hide them in my closet. I was a partier, you know, and at the time my mom was still going to church, and she would make us go to church. So we were going to church, and I'd be going in hungover and lying to the bishop about what was really happening in my life. I felt so much shame, and it's just hard. It's hard to be in that position, and knowing a lot of my peers weren't really experiencing what I was, but alcohol it made me feel so good.
Yeah.
It was like, this is how I want to feel all the time.
Yeah.
Confident, not caring what people think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it shows how deeply hurt you were.
Yeah.
Because to have that instant relief, if you will, like you're like, whoa, what a contrast. I went from feeling this to feeling this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, why wouldn't I want to feel this way?
Oh, yeah.
Who wouldn't? Right?
Incredible.
So no wonder that became this thing like, wow, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So this went on through for several years, and then get into your story.
Yeah. So college, I did all the things, went to college, and I was a functioning alcoholic the whole time. I moved around. I was in Vegas for a couple years. That was terrible for me. Mm-hmm. Ended up moving back to St. Louis when I was 26. Got into a relationship with someone, and it ended up being abusive. And that's when my eating disorder kicked back up, just verbal abuse. And it was bad enough to where my mom helped me move out, and she just said, you need to get some help. So she ended up finding a therapist from the church named Vicki Simmons, and she was an EMDR therapist.
Okay.
And I saw her for 6 months, and she did somatic EMDR with me on a bullying incident from junior high. And that after that, there was no more purging for me. So absolutely life changing. I could not believe it. This is something that I had been struggling with for 10 years on and off. And so, that it was from there that I was like, and I was lost at the time, which is crazy. I was drinking all the time. I was working in restaurants, the server, bartender industry. Yeah. I was a mess, but I was functioning. I was still going to college. So I still had some kind of direction, but I was getting A's on tests and going to the bar right after, right? Like it was just incredible how functioning I was. But it did get in my head when I realized, okay, I'm going to school for psychology. I want to be a therapist, but here I am. And I knew I had a problem, but it was so normalized. Everyone in St. Louis drank. Everybody, all my friends, everybody. That's what we did. We would go out to the bar. Yeah. So for me, I didn't realize I was an alcoholic. I had the hardest time admitting that. That I was an alcoholic.
Yeah, because things were, like you said, you're getting A's and you're still showing up to work. You're still doing the things you would normally still be doing. So, I do drink, but it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Yeah. We hear that a lot, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like the wake up, I need to drink, I have the shakes. Yeah. I wasn't that kind of an alcoholic. I was more of a binge drinker. When I started drinking, I could not stop. That feeling, that little voice that's like, hey, you've had enough. I don't have that. I don't have that. I'm like, hey, I'm having a great time. Give me more. And I was so afraid to run out.
Wow. So the EMDR at the time helped you with the eating disorder, but yet you were still
struggling with
the alcohol. So talk about what led to you eventually, getting past that addiction.
Yeah. So, gosh, I was in my master's program. Same thing. I heard you hate public speaking. So did I. So I was like going to the bar, getting a beer before my speech class. Right. And totally. I'm in my almost last year of my master's program, and I'm bartending, which is, as you know, is a really bad idea for an alcoholic. Right. So I just got in trouble too many times. This is hard to admit, my recovery story was forced upon me, and it's beautiful. Yeah. If I would not have gotten caught, and I actually spent 90 days in jail, and did a recovery program called Choices in St. Louis County Jail. Okay. So that, it was life-changing. And, I knew I was going 8 months before. My lawyer kept delaying the sentence because I wanted to finish my school for that year. I was like, I'm in an internship. I was a counselor in an internship. Wow. Working with people.
Man.
drinking. And so, yeah, so I knew, you know what, if I'm going to be a therapist, there is no way that I can still drink and be a good therapist and help people. And so I kind of worked myself up. I mean, I was drinking until the morning. I had to turn myself in. I remember my last 2 drinks were 2 IPA beers. And my dad, bless his heart, he took me to jail. And, I thought, this is crazy. But I was like, part of me is I'm looking forward to this in a way because I want to know what it's like to be in this spot so that I can be better therapist. I can experience what I know some of my clients are going to experience. So I kind of took that attitude going into jail. And it took about 60 days for me to actually admit that I was an alcoholic. 60 days.
In jail.
Yep. Because I was sober. I didn't have 60 days of my brain not having that alcohol for me to be like, you have a problem and this is not normal.
Wow. So going to jail for that, 90 days is a long time. One night would be a long time.
Yeah.
But 90. I can only imagine what was it, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit, what was that like? Like you're going to jail. Were you afraid? Were you scared? What was going on?
Yeah, it was pretty terrifying. You get in there and they make sure you don't have anything on you. You have to take everything off and they give you your jumpsuit and you have nothing. You don't have a hairbrush, a hair tie, a toothbrush. You have nothing. And so I ended up meeting this girl that was on a bunch of different drugs. She was on like fentanyl, meth, alcohol, benzos, anything you could name, she was on it. And it was not her first rodeo. So I was next to her, started talking to her. I told her it was my first time. She's like, don't worry, I got you, Well, by this point, I was kind of naive to substance use. I didn't really get into that. I was just strictly alcohol pretty much. Yeah. So I really knew nothing about drug withdrawal. Well, we got into our cell and she was so sick, not eating, not drinking. And I'm like, you are supposed to be helping me here.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do. I'm like, this is horrible. So the first week you literally have nothing, no notebook, no book, no hairbrush, nothing until you get a week in and then your family can put money on your books and you can get all those things. But you're so dehumanized.
Oh man.
It was the hardest week of my life. So anyway, the guards came to me and they said, you need to help your roommate eat, your cellmate eat. And I'm kind of like, why is this my responsibility? Yeah. But I grabbed her and I said, hey, we need to get you downstairs to get you some food or drink something. So I helped carry her down the stairs and I thought, she's going to fall and this is going to be terrible. Right. I sit her down. I give her 1 sip of juice and she ends up having a seizure. Falls over. I jump on the ground to catch her head so she doesn't hit her head. Man. I'm like traumatized. Yeah. They're like, all right, you're good. You can go back to your cell. So I ended up just going back to my cell. And I think I was so traumatized. I miss roll call. Actually, when you're in there, they want to make sure you're where you're supposed to be. So they say several times a day, you're supposed to stand by your door cell so they can see you. And I miss that. And so they're like, well, you're on 24-hour lockdown. So that means you stay in your cell for 24 hours. And there was no books, nothing. You're just sitting there thinking.
Man, I can't imagine how lonely that would feel. And like you said, dehumanizing. The list goes on. Yeah. So here you are going through all of that, and it takes you 60 days to finally go, okay, I have a problem, right? Yeah. Did as you had that realization, right, that awareness at 60 days, did that help the next 30 days? Did you start looking at things differently because of that? Or, again, was this still like, I'm still battling, but I'll at least admit there's a drinking problem here? Yeah.
So I didn't have any desire to drink, which is really crazy. I think after that 60 days, a lot changed for me. And again, I knew I wanted to be a therapist. And so that is what kind of drove my sobriety as well. I didn't, I knew that I could not drink again. If I drink again, I'm going to get in trouble again and I will lose my license and everything that I've worked hard for. All the money that I've spent on school and my education, everything. And I just figured, this is, and I felt good. So when I got out, it was my last year for my master's program. Okay. And so I finished school. I started serving again, but I was working at a breakfast restaurant that didn't serve alcohol. And
a lot more,
it was just a lot more supportive for where I was. And so, I was able to graduate, and then I had an interest in substance use. So I ended up working at the crisis line for a year, which was interesting.
Whoa.
Really not my jam,
That'd
but
be intense.
Yeah, that crisis counseling is no joke.
Right.
Yeah. So I did that for a year, and then I got into community health and was working as a substance use counselor for 4 years. Oh, and I loved it. Yeah. I loved working with that population, but it was a lot, and I wasn't able to move forward just, financially. It was really hard to pay for my student loans and just get somewhere. So that's when my sister Cassidy, actually, she's the one that was like, what are you doing? Therapy's like the it thing right now. Like you would make so much money if you just did private practice. And so she's the one that really inspired me to
right on
to make that move, because I was a little nervous with student loans. I was trying to do that student loan repayment, and so I ended up just giving that up because I knew that private practice was where I wanted to be. Yeah. And
once you started doing that, did you feel like, okay, I think I have found my place?
Yes.
Did it feel that way?
Yeah. I mean, from the time that I saw that EMDR therapist, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Now I know you're passionate about EMDR because obviously look what happened, right?
Yes. Amazing.
Why don't just take a minute or two, talk about EMDR, let our listeners know, like if they don't know what that is, explain to us what that is.
Yeah, so it's basically a type of trauma therapy, but it actually, we can use it for a lot of different things. I use it a lot for addiction, and I use it a lot for chronic pain. But it is basically, we go back and we rewire the brain. We rewire the memory using bilateral stimulation. So what we're doing with that is just engaging left and right brain. There's something about that helps that memory reprocess and file away. Like a normal memory. Because when we go through a trauma, we get a negative belief from that trauma, and we also get a body experience. And that's what gets stuck in the nervous system. So that's when we get re-triggered.
Gotcha.
It kind of feels like we're back in that memory again.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I've had an experience with that. We do it here at Wasatch Recovery.
Yes.
And my sister had passed away, and there was a couple clients who had passed away, and then I had a friend who passed away. I mean, this all hit and I was struggling, and we have a therapist here named Wendy who does EMDR, and I went to her and says, man, I'm struggling. And she put me through one session of EMDR.
Yep.
And I thought,
life-changing.
Because, I've studied it, but I've never done it before. And I thought, does it really work? I did one session, Ashley, and I was like, my gosh, that was unbelievable.
Yes.
It almost feels like this is weird, right? Because they're
it's the weirdest therapy.
But I'll tell you, for those listening, it really was a life changing for me in that moment, because it helped me deal with all this death, including my sister's, to where I maybe not 100% peace around it, but it changed my belief system around it. It was amazing.
Yeah. It's so hard to tell people how it works and how credible it is, but there's just something about it that it just takes a weight off. My clients, when they go through it, they are just, I felt that. And they're just, at the end of the session, they're like, I just feel so much lighter.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's incredible.
Wow. Congrats, first of all.
Thank you.
Chokes me up because I've been in your shoes, and to see someone go through all of that. And a lot of times, like he even said, you said the word, I was the black sheep of the family.
Yep.
Do you still believe that now?
No.
Okay, good. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I really believe that life happens for us. I really do. And I think of your story so far, and I know there's a lot more to your story.
Yeah.
But you get bullied. You're a little different from the other siblings.
Yep.
You maybe had, you were putting on a little more weight. You were into the arts. You were into this, and just different. And then
Yep.
you go to school and get bullied, and then you're like, yeah, I'm just different. I'm bad. I'm the black sheep.
Yeah.
But had you not gone through all of that, you probably wouldn't be a therapist today. Is that accurate? Maybe.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I never went to a counselor before I was 26.
Wow.
Knew nothing about therapy.
Yeah.
Things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
I love the olive branch. It was important to me when I was in jail because, we go through our biggest, deepest struggles and we think our life is over, and it's when it's just starting, but we don't know that till we come over the other side. So I went into jail thinking, this is horrible, so scared to live without alcohol, because I had never done it. Since 16, I had never gone even 30 days without alcohol. And so I needed that. I needed that to get me to realize and open my mind to, hey, like, there's a different path you can take, and it's going to be okay. And you can do this without alcohol. You can live life. And the biggest thing about being in recovery is the freedom. I constantly thought of alcohol, constant. You're constantly thinking about when you're going to have your next drink.
Right.
And that was the thing that I was like, this is like being reborn. Like you don't have to worry about thinking about alcohol all the time. Yeah. So freeing.
Reborn's a good way to look at that.
Yes.
It's so true. It's like, oh, this is where I'm going to go now.
Yes.
Was jail your rock bottom, do you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could write a book.
Like
I could write a book with, and I've thought about it.
You probably should.
Yeah, with everything that I experienced in jail. Some really, really crazy, interesting stories. But it is such a humbling experience to be laying on metal and have a mattress that's like as thick as a washcloth, and you're freezing, and you don't have anything. Man. And you're just left to really sit with yourself and journal and read and figure out and find yourself, and connect spiritually. Wow. I had a lot of time to do that. Yeah. So it absolutely life-changing. And I wish, I had the rehab program. It wasn't just jail, it was rehab. And we were out, we were doing yoga, we were doing counseling, we were doing AA, we were doing all the things, group therapy. Yeah. And it, something that I would probably not be able to afford outside of, So, I do think that. So
happened for you.
Yes.
I mean, that sounds crazy, but it's true.
I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here you are.
But the olive branch, back to that. Yeah. You have to cut the branches of an olive tree back for it to blossom the olives, or grow. Gotcha. And so that was kind of the symbol for me that was like, you have to be cut back in order to move forward and grow.
Wow. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know this is a big question, but looking back through this journey, if you will, what are maybe the one or two lessons that really stand out to you that you feel like you're taking away from this?
Oh, that is a hard question.
Yeah. I know there's 1,000 of them, I'm sure, but.
Ooh, I'm probably going to tear up, but, self-compassion, I think, is huge. Being able to connect to self-compassion. And forgive yourself. Wow. Yeah. Forgive yourself for being that person that you don't want to be.
Yeah. Wow.
I was not a nice person. I put my parents through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've never stopped loving me. They've never stopped supporting me. They are my biggest cheerleaders to this day.
That's awesome.
So I'm so grateful for them and for my siblings. They're supportive as well. And it's helped me be able to forgive myself. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is how important having self-compassion is.
I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the incredible sponsors of the BeliefCast podcast. First, Craig from Craig Swapp and Associates. If you need an attorney, he's your guy. Trustworthy, compassionate, always there when you need him most. Next, Wasatch Recovery, the greatest university on the planet, transforming lives one day at a time. Sandy from Minky Couture, the creative genius behind the most comfortable blanket you'll ever wrap yourself in. Comfort like no other. Special thanks to the award-winning pianist Paul Cardall for his beautiful music that brings inspiration to every episode. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You can't have shame and self-compassion at the same time. And you had a lot of shame, is what we heard through your story.
Yeah.
And for those listening, shame is you just believe you're this bad person.
Yeah.
And for you to be in a place of, hey, you know what? I have compassion for myself. I have forgiven myself. And I see this a lot with my clients where they are stuck in the shame mindset, and it is the killer. Right?
Yeah. It's so hard.
Right?
Yeah.
And I understand too at the same time why they're there.
Yep.
Right?
We felt it.
And so thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. I know that was a tough question that I asked.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of lessons I know you've learned over this whole journey. And if that's the one that stands out, man, that's amazing. Like, I don't know, have you ever heard of the book, The Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh?
No.
Okay. I have one copy right there. You can see it over here in my office. I've got it displayed. It's a children's book. And I've never done this before, Ashley. I'm not kidding you. I've never done this before.
Wow.
I'm going to give you that book when you leave. And if you will, read it tonight before you go to bed. Yeah. And you will know for a fact when you read that book why you went through what you went through. You already do know this, but it's going to confirm. Yeah. That's a better way of saying it. You will love this book. I have no doubt that you will be sharing this book with your clients. And I've never done this before. I promise. I just feel prompted that I'm going to share that book with you because it's going to speak to your soul. It is one of the greatest books I think I've ever read in my life. And it's a children's book of all books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Oh.
And I can't thank you enough. Just for, again, here you are being vulnerable with all of us. And it's amazing when this vulnerability is a superpower.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I feel so connected to you because of your vulnerability. And I'm sure everyone listening too.
Thank you.
I wanted to also share a quote with you. And I'd just love to hear your thoughts on it. It's kind of a long quote, but I want to share it with you. And just if you would share with us what you think about it. Is that cool? Yeah. Okay. It's by James Allen. He's famous for writing the book As a Man Thinketh back in 1903, long time ago. But listen, this kind of describes your life a little bit. Okay. And I thought of you when I really thought, I want to share this with Ashley today.
Love it.
Here it is. When one has reached the lowest point of sorrow, when weak and exhausted and overcome with a sense of powerlessness, he cries to God for help, and there comes no answering comfort and no succor. Then, discovering the painfulness of sorrow and the insufficiency of prayer alone, he or she is ready to enter the path of self-renunciation, ready to purify their hearts, ready to practice self-control, ready to become a spiritual athlete, and to develop that divine and invincible strength which is born of self-mastery.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah. What do you think of that? I know that's a lot there, but...
Incredible. Yeah, it's so true.
Right?
Yeah. I struggled with spirituality and, being raised LDS, I grew up being taught what to believe, and I always struggled. I was a kid with questions and why? And I just felt like nobody could tell me why. So around 16 is when I kind of fell out of the church. I really, I just wasn't praying anything. And when I was in jail was when I reconnected with God, and I started praying every day and really leaning on scripture, which was something I had never done before, to really guide me and help me through and help me see. And everything just felt so right.
Wow.
That I knew this was what I'm here for. This is my soul's purpose, was to go through this, was to experience alcoholism and an eating disorder so that I could be here to help other people. 100%.
That's amazing.
That's my purpose.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you. Again, thank you for letting me share that, and thanks for your feedback on that.
Yeah.
If there's someone right now listening to your voice, listening to you talk right now, and they're in a dark place, and they are struggling, and they're not sure what to do, what would you tell that person right now?
So much. So I'm like, what is the one thing?
Yeah.
You matter, and you are loved, and recovery is possible. I never thought it was possible for me.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, so I understand that it's scary. It's scary to think, how could you live life without substances or alcohol? And I am witness to that. It is a beautiful life after that. And it really does still your soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you another tough question.
Okay.
What do you love most about yourself?
Man. Oh. My empathy. And I'm crying because sometimes I feel like I have too much, or but I'm so proud of it, and I'm so proud of that I have the empathy that I have, because I think it just makes me so much better at being able to connect with people and help them.
Yeah.
But it was something that also led me down the path of addiction, my empathy, because I felt so much. I was such a sensitive child that, it was kind of like, I'm too much, you're too much.
Yeah.
And now it's something that I hold dear and I'm so proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Thank you for your vulnerability and your empathy.
Yeah.
And again, I really believe you went through all of this for this very reason. And I'm sure your clients absolutely love you. I'm sure you're amazing at what you do. If people want to reach out to you and they want to know more about what you do and maybe even use you as their therapist or whatever, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can just either connect with me on Instagram at recoverytherapist.ashley, or actually I have a Psychology Today profile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Where you can easily find me if you look up my name.
Great. Well, I encourage anyone listening to this who might be struggling and maybe they've tried other therapy modalities that aren't working, but I'm here to also testify with you. EMDR is the real deal.
Yes. It's amazing.
It really does. It's just amazing how it works. But if you need help, please reach out to Ashley. If you have a loved one, please reach out to them as well and have them reach out to Ashley. I know for a fact that she would be ready and willing to make a difference in their life.
Absolutely.
And I will put your links in the show notes so they can get right to you. Okay. And I encourage all of you to do that. If you have a loved one who's struggling as well and you're not sure how to break the ice, and maybe this happens a lot where they're afraid to bring it up.
Yes.
Send them a link to this episode with Ashley
Oh, yeah.
And they will be inspired after this to talk to you, and it'll break the ice. You can ask them to follow up. What'd you think of Ashley's story? And that'll start a conversation, and that will lead into getting some help. So please do that. Ashley, I can't thank you enough for being on my show today.
Thank you.
And for taking some time out of your busy schedule. It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I think the world of your sister, and now I put you right there with her. I think the world of you.
Thank you.
It's so cool to get to know people on a level like this. And you guys are great. You're great.
Thank you.
If there's anything I can ever do for you, moving forward, I'd be happy to help in any way I can. Okay. I love like-minded people where we've been through it, and we need each other sometimes too, so if you ever need anything, let me know.
Yeah.
Does that sound all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. Ashley Milne, please reach out to her. The link's right there, like I said, in the show notes. Just click on that and check out what she's doing. She's amazing. Thank you for tuning in. I love you guys. You guys have been so fantastic. Your support means the world to me. And also, again, to my sponsors. Without you, I wouldn't be able to do this show. So thank you. It means the world. Love you guys. And again, Ashley, you're the best. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody.